If your back hurts when sitting for a long period of time, then this video is for you. Hi, I'm Dr. Dave Candy, and in this video, I'll share 5 tips to help you sit longer and more comfortably without your back hurting. When you're sitting for long periods of time and not moving, your muscles stiffen up, and particularly if you're using your muscles to support your spine. So that prolonged static muscle contraction can contribute to pain. Additionally, when you're sitting, especially sitting in a really rounded position like that puts a lot of pressure on the discs in your lower back. Now, the discs themselves don't have a very good blood supply. So again, when you're not moving, you're not getting circulation, not getting nutrients and oxygen to the discs, and that can create hypoxia or lack of oxygen. In that case, you get a buildup of chemicals such as lactic acid, which cause sort of a dull, achy pain. And so the number one best tip to avoid back pain when sitting for long periods of time is just to avoid sitting for long periods of time without getting up. Now, that's not necessarily one of the tips that I'm going to include in this video, because just telling you don't sit isn't necessarily a great option. Sometimes you do have to sit for long periods of time. But if you have the option to get up and move, I would highly suggest you do that regularly, ideally at least once an hour. Now, moving on to the actual tips. The number one tip is to use the backrest. Many people will try to sit up tall at the edge of their seat, much like I'm doing right now, to sit with good posture. Some people will even go to the extent of sitting on an exercise ball to strengthen their core, but sitting is not necessarily a strengthening exercise. You want to actually sit back in the backrest and allow your back to rest. This way your muscles aren't under a static muscle contraction. It also offloads your spine if you can lean back into the backrest slightly, so you're not getting that downward compression from gravity, and your spine muscles aren't having to work to stabilize your spine. So they're not under that prolonged static tension. And in that case, you're less likely to get stiffness when you're sitting for long periods of time. Now, the next tip is to use a lumbar support, but to use it wisely. And one great way to do that is just to use a rolled up towel. There are commercial models of lumbar supports that you can buy, or back cushions that support your spine. But one nice thing about a rolled up towel is, number one, you probably already have it available at home without buying something extra. And number two, you can vary how thick or thin it is just by how large of a towel you use and how tightly you roll it up. Now, the mistake a lot of people use when using a lumbar support is they put it at the largest part of the arch in their back. So if you are sitting like this, they put it at the apex of the spine. But that's not really what a lumbar support is designed to do. When you sit for long periods of time, and particularly if you have more of a classic herniated disc problem, when you round out like that, it puts a lot of pressure on the posterior part of the disc. So the idea of the lumbar support or towel roll is to give you a little bit more arch or lordosis in your back. Now, if you're putting it at the part of your back where it's already the most arched, then that's going to just accentuate the arch. And that's particularly not good for people who have back pain when standing, back pain when walking, and also back pain when sitting for long periods of time. Many people will tend to develop one point in their spine where they have almost a hinge, where instead of being a nice smooth curve like a C, it's more like a greater than or less than sign. And if you just put the towel roll right at that apex, again, it just accentuates the curvature. So rather than putting it at the most arched point of your back, you actually want to put it at the flatter parts of your back, above or below the apex, so that it gives you more of a smooth curve. It creates more extension in the places where you have less extension, and less extension in the places where you have more extension. So if you're sitting in a chair like this, and you have a lot of arch in your lower back right here, you really don't want to put it at that spot right where you have a lot of arch, but actually maybe put it slightly below that, so it creates slightly more arch where the back is relatively flatter and allows that part where it's relatively more rounded to flatten out a little bit. So again, it kind of makes the curvature a little bit more smooth. Now the next tip is to use footrests. This doesn't apply to everyone because people are different heights. Ideally, when you're sitting, you want your hips close to 90 degrees. Some people will do better with a little greater than 90-degree angle. Some people will do better with a little less than 90-degree angle. If you're someone who tends to have back pain when standing or walking more often than sitting, but sitting for long periods makes you aggravated, you'll probably do a little better with a footrest. It may not necessarily have to be this high, but experiment with a lower footrest or a higher footrest and see what feels best for you. The higher the footrest is, the more flexed or rounded it makes your spine. So if you've got a lot of arch in your back, you'll probably feel a little bit better with a slightly higher footrest. If you've got a moderate amount of arch in your lower back, you may feel better with sort of a medium-sized to small footrest. And if you've got a really flat back, you might actually do better with no footrest at all, or even raising your chair up a little bit so it creates a bit of a forward pelvic tilt and actually puts you in a little bit of extension. Now the next tip is to alter your position when you are sitting. You want to move between more of an anterior pelvic tilt and a posterior pelvic tilt, particularly if you're in a position where you can't get up for a long period of time. So you don't necessarily want to stay in one position for a 4-hour drive. Try to go into a little bit of an anterior tilt where it increases the arch of your back for a while, and then a posterior tilt, or even just moving back and forth, doing a sitting pelvic tilt type of exercise. This helps get your muscles working a little bit. It gets your discs moving, gets some blood flow, and helps prevent that hypoxia or lack of blood flow in your spine. Again, that's particularly good if you're taking a long drive in the car, or if you're sitting at a long meeting where you don't have a chance to get up. That helps get you a little bit of movement in your lower back. And then the final tip is left to right balance. You want to avoid positions where you're sitting constantly on one side of your bottom or the other side of your bottom. For example, some people will tend to sit with their feet out to one side or the other, or people will tend to lean on an armrest, where perhaps you're sitting on a couch and you always sit on the same edge of the couch, or you lean out on one side of the couch to read, and you always do that in the same direction. That can create some left to right muscle imbalances and create pinching on the side where you tend to lean towards. Now, it is okay to lean to one side or the other, but if you're going to do that, try to alternate which side you lean towards. Ideally, it's best, though, to sit with equal weight on each side of your bottom and avoid leaning excessively one way or the other. If you are sitting on a couch that just has an armrest on one side, you can try propping up some pillows on the other side so that keeps you a little bit more balanced. So hopefully you found those tips helpful to help you sit longer without your back hurting. But what do you do if your back feels okay when you're sitting, but it hurts when you go to stand up or when you start walking? If that's the case for you, check out this video over here. But before you go check that one out, if you found this video helpful, make sure to give it a like and subscribe to our channel so you can get notified of our future videos. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.